Hello everyone, Luke Taylor here with another album review, and today's album is 1997 U2 Pop. Now this is a little bit of a controversial album for a number of reasons, and I just want to start in by saying that this is very personal to me and this is very much a part of my musical journey in my life. And I would say growing up U2 was my favorite band without a doubt. The Edge is easily one of the most important guitar players to me. I think the three most important guitar players to me are The Edge, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Randy Rhoads. And I must say that The Edge has always been a source of inspiration and creativity. And he's not the world's most, technically flashy or proficient. He's an incredible songwriter, wonderful team player, just a really distinct and really unique sound. And going into this, I have to say, you have to understand that I have a huge heritage with the 80s U2. So, when did I get this? I was young. I would say I was 14. I want to say 14. And it was Christmas, and my brother gave me this album. And he's probably the biggest U2 fan I've ever met. And it was really cool it was the time when you could actually get a CD, and you could go in your room with your CD player and listen to it. So, I will take a moment right there. Imagine me sitting there 14 years old and staring at this spinning around and around and kind of going into the world that they had created here. And the way that Discotheque starts the album is this down, down, down. So you're just kind of spinning into this, little world that they'd made. So that said, this album is largely about a lot of little abstract scenes and little abstract subjects, with the bigger view upon like some kind of satire and some kind of critique of American commercialism or worldwide commercialism, but very America. I mean, they started the Pop Mart tour in a Kmart, so that kind of tells you the whole idea. It was all about excess and all about commercialism and all these things. But if you just look at the album for what it is, and I must say that I'd never heard anything like this before, and it was very different from 80s U2. It didn't have any of that kind of canyon filling, epic sound, and no Joshua Tree, none of that kind of thing. And the songs have kind of a darker personal flavor. It's not as dark as Achtung Baby. Achtung Baby is one of my favorite albums of all time, and that is definitely my favorite U2 album. And this is not the album after Achtung Baby, it's the album after Zuroba, 1997. So this is kind of at the end of their 90s run, when they were doing a lot of experimentation, and they were kind of fumbling through some really big ideas. And sometimes, when you reach out and try to grasp a big idea, it can fail. But I don't think this is the failure. It obviously was a commercial failure as far as album sales, and compared to their other stuff, there's no way this was ever going to sell as much as Joshua Tree or something. But I don't think it's a musical or artistic fail at all. It's very interesting, and I think your first experience with it is going to kind of mold the way that you see the music. And back then, when I just started learning to play guitar, I want to say 13 or 14 was when I got this, so it was right away. The whole idea of just doing something cool was really inspiring. And so, just like from the opening riff from Discotheque, this kind of dry but fat overdriven guitar going down, this is really cool. And there was this kind of sense of fun that they approached the satire with. But that said, there's some really serious songs on here. There's some really deep moving songs like Please and Gone, and of course If God Will Send His Angels and Wake Up Dead Man. So there's this plaintive cry that runs through the album, and it has a nice dichotomy with some of the more ridiculous things like Mofo and like Playboy Mansion or Miami. I have to say, this is one of those albums that you can just sit and listen to, and it's just kind of a mixed bag. And it's a little difficult to rate in that regard, but I just wanted to talk about it and review it because I don't think it's very popular, and I don't think a lot of people are talking about it, but it did impact me deeply. And I will say that because it does have several different mini moods. It's almost like watching a TV show that has different storylines, and then there's different characters in the storylines, and so some of the storylines are very deep and some of the storylines are very superficial, and hopefully as it all combines together, it creates a real big vivid picture. And I don't know how well they accomplish that to other people, but to me it just touched me in a way that was musical and it was interesting. Something like If You Wear That Velvet Dress had a cool mood to it, and I had not heard that music before. I hadn't gotten into the kind of mood that they were developing. I think all the individual performances on the album are really good. There are times Bono sounds a little tired and a little ragged, and I think that's really kind of a happy accident in a way for a song like Last Night on Earth. It's about, you know, partying till you die, really, and it's a very sad thought, but he really sounds tired when he's singing it, and that's something that you can't fake. You either are tired and your voice is hurting, or it's not, and it's in there. And I know that throughout this process, there's a lot of different emotions that come up when you're recording songs that have this much of a story quality to it. So I do think that that's contained in the music, and it's just a very different, and for them it would be very experimental, you know, when you're connecting to all their music. Like if you're a big U2 fan, this feels very experimental, and I just think it's a real piece of the 90s that if I'm bringing up the 90s and I'm bringing up what this era was like musically, this is a really nice example. It's kind of saying something and it's kind of not saying something. Furthermore, I remember, this is another little story. When my brother went off to college, I actually recreated the album cover on MS Paint. If you see the album cover there, the little pixelated faces, I actually did that on MS Paint, and it was really cool. It actually looked really good. And I would actually listen to the album while painting it, and you know, it was just a cool thing because we connected through this band a lot, and talked about it, watched the videos, just really got into it, got into all the extra stuff that goes along with it. And so I have very fond memories of this album because it, you know, really reminds me of him in many ways, because he gave it to me. It was cool too because he didn't own it, so it was kind of like a big deal. It's like, you know, he'd never heard it, and it was like, you get to listen to it first, you get to experience it and talk about it. And I just have really fond memories from it, and you know, listening to it again, it's very interesting because I hadn't heard it for so long. So I do, when I hear it, I do have that connection to the past, which is very strong, because when I would get a new album, I would listen to it incessantly. I would listen to it for 2 or 3 months and not listen to anything else. So whenever I got a new album, especially at that age, I just dove into it, and that's how some of those albums have such a huge impact on me still today. So in retrospect, this is an interesting one to rate. It's a mixed bag, which has a lot of different emotions on it, different kind of experimental songs. Some you might love, some you might really hate, but altogether it's a really interesting listening experience, and I think it's something that you know, music fans or U2 fans shouldn't overlook and shouldn't talk bad about, as far as like, this is an important step between their journeys, you know, between an amazing album like Achtung Baby and an amazing album like All You Can't Leave Behind. So that said, I'm going to rate this a bronze. A lot of different thoughts and ideas running through this, very, very creative in many ways, kind of, yeah. So that said, what do you think of U2? They have a massive career with tons of albums, tons of songs. What do you think of this album? If you've heard it, do you know about it? And if you have any albums or genres or anything you want to hear me talk about or hear me review or just bring up, please leave a comment below. Please share this video, give me a like, subscribe, and take care. I'll see you later.